This video is going to be different from what I usually do in the channel. Recently, one of my new subscribers is a reaction channel that is a couple in Jersey, Britain. And for the February 2022 trip from Onondaga County back across Genesee County to reenact the trip our family made in February of 1822, I'm going to vlog that so they can see what New York State is really like. Because their only trip to the United States was in New York City, and they never saw outside of New York City. The 8 square miles that it holds 44% of the population of the state. So I'm going to do a little vlog here showing this area. This is going to be in the village of Warsaw, and between Warsaw and Silver Springs. I'm going to record on the way back, and then I'm going to edit together and do some voiceover, and we'll do that, and there'll be a little bit of practice for recording the trip from Onondaga County. Be a little bit of practice for recording the trip from Onondaga County, and it'll show them a little bit of what the real New York is like. New York is far more than just New York City, and it's really disappointing when you see how many people think that New York State is New York City. And it's not just people in foreign countries, it's people in this own country, in this country, think that New York is New York City, and that's all it is. New York State was admitted in the Union July 26, 1788. It's the 11th state to ratify the Constitution. It is 54,155 square miles. 47,126, I believe, is the land mass. And of that, New York City is the actual New York City is approximately 8 square miles of the 5 boroughs. On the very far southeastern corner, that part of New York doesn't even look like it should be part of New York. It should be part of New Jersey or Connecticut because it's closer to that. 44% of the population of the 20,155,000, I think it is, people that live in New York State, 44% live in New York City, and 40% live on Long Island. The New York City metropolitan area is over 23 million, but that, of course, includes the New Jersey area, the suburbs north of New York City, Westchester, Yonkers, and Long Island. That includes Long Island, too. The second most populous city is Buffalo, which is the other end of the state, about 500,000 people. Another thing that people get confused is the capital of New York State is not New York City, it is Albany, which is up the river from New York City. It's on the same side of the state, but not the same city. New York City at one time was the capital of the United States. That was during the war. They moved the Continental Congress to Philadelphia, so Philadelphia was technically the capital for a little while, and then it was moved. Then Washington, D.C. was built. But New York State is predominantly a farming state. We are number 2 in milk production in the nation, number 1 in yogurt production. A lot of that yogurt is made in Batavia, New York, at the Oatka milk processing plant. They built a large yogurt factory there a while ago, and they are a huge producer of yogurt. New York State is mostly rural area, dotted with small cities like Binghamton, Syracuse, Utica, Rochester, Buffalo, even smaller ones like Batavia, Jamestown, Salamanca, Olean, Hornell, Corning, Elmira, and villages like Warsaw, Castile, Gainesville, Silver Springs, Perry, Geneseo, Avon, Pittsford, Webster, Rockport, Lockport, Spencerport, and of course there's the city of Niagara Falls, city of North Tonawanda, city of Tonawanda. There's the village of Hamburg, there's the city of Lackawanna, there's the village of Lancaster, the village of Depew. Townships like Cheektowaga, Tonawanda, Amherst, Warsaw, Gainesville, Wethersfield, and they all vary from size and population. But here is the footage of the real New York. Here we start our journey, standing on the Allen Street Bridge in the village of Warsaw, looking south along the Owatka Creek. Many of the communities in this state were built up along creeks, because at that time there was no other form of power other than water power. And you got mills built along the creek and such. This is the guardrail of the bridge. There's Montgomery's Building Supply, the lumberyard for Warsaw, and off to the right is buildings that look like an old lumberyard. I cannot remember what they were at one point. Off in the distance, you can see the abutment at the approach of a bridge that carries Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh's industrial branch through and over to the elevator factory where the warehouse is now, and the freight depot beyond. The elevator factory closed in 1960s, 1970s, and the industrial branch was abandoned in the 1960s. Now we go to Main Street, Warsaw, approaching Buffalo Street. This is the intersection of New York 19 and 20, US 20A, and then we jump quickly to the to the East Municipal parking lot coming out of Frank Street. You have Ace Hardware, Rexall Drugs, Weeks Funeral Home is on the right, and the church is right beyond that. Little alleyway is one way across the street, going out to the West Municipal lot. There's one of the churches. There's the Moose Lodge to the right, and then the library is the building that's kitty corner. Civil War Monument. And then on the left side is the old courthouse, the new courthouse, Wyoming County Emergency Management, Wyoming County Sheriff's Office, and Wyoming County Jail. We're going along North Main Street, passing side streets. You see the houses lining North Main Street. At the Catholic Church is the white building. There's a lawyer's office in the brick house on the left. Former Assemblyman Dan Burling lives in the brick house that was on the right. This is what the real New York looks like, far from the city as you pass Eaton Watson Funeral Home. Not Eaton Watson. Robinson and Hackman. Why am I wrong? The florist on the left. The new Microtel, where that stood, was once a nursing home. It closed a long time ago. In fact, my grandfather died there. My great-grandfather died there. A guy had bought the building and was trying to make it into a hotel. But he had financial difficulties and never got it off the ground. The land was bought and torn down, and a Microtel was built in its place. Here's Wyoming County Community Hospital, the only hospital in Wyoming County. There's a sign that displays the newborn babies and other important messages. Hospital also has a nursing home on it, and up on the hill on the right is more medical buildings. There's a restaurant on the left, and Quick Fill, one of the gas stations. Sears is on the right, Taco Bell on the left. There's a side street going up the hill. Verizon store. Fortunately, the camera is shaking because it's hard to hold the camera still when you're driving down the road. The chiropractor is on the left, and there's a car wash that you can just see the sign. Some old offices up the hill. Warren's Carpet Cleaning is the blue roof building. And now there's a plaza off to our left. You can see the stores that are there. And Tim Hortons. Wyoming County Department of Social Services is up the side street to our right. And Old Buffalo Road is a road that often floods in the springtime. You can see that Warsaw is in a valley. However, you can hardly see the hills, as it's quite a serious snow squall happening when this was recorded. And so you can just merely make out the shapes of the hills to the west. As we pass the Full Gospel Church and lube place, the old Hollywood Video was built in around 1999 and closed in about 10 years ago or more. Here we're coming up to Walmart and Tops Plazas. There's Bank Castile on the right, closed Aeromart. There's McDonald's, recently ruined. They remodeled that to look horrible. And there you can finally see the hill to the west hill. They're pulling into Tops parking lot. Tops is the grocery store for Western New York. Some people would say that Wegmans is, but no, Tops is. Wegmans is an interloper. There's Walmart over here. We are going back south through Warsaw, just past the Catholic Church, and there's a better shot of the Wyoming County Sheriff's Office, jail, Wyoming County Courthouse, and Old Wyoming County Courthouse. There's an old lawyer's office on the left that's now a kind of boutique. There's the library, kitty corner, facing the monument. Moose Lodge on the left, church on the right, Weeks Funeral Home, Ace. These buildings along Main Street are the typical historical Main Street buildings that line most main streets. Five Star Bank is a newer building, however. They tore down a bunch of those older buildings and put that monstrosity up there. That building in the corner to the right used to be a bank. It was lately a game store, and then it was a secondhand store. There's the theater, the post office on the right, Bud's Delicatessen. Michael Reed makes gravestones. That church, the First Baptist Church, was built in 1889. Dollar General is on our left and really show it. Crossing Owaka Creek here, past apartment houses and such. On our left is the site of the former freight depot, the storage units, and the elevator factory. Switches from North Main to South Main at the traffic light that we passed a while back. The liquor store has moved to a different location. Boss Nail Salon is a fairly new business. Trigot Auto Parts has been closed since the owner died. Passing Jefferson Street on our right, and heading out of the village. Going up a little hill, and to go between the cemeteries. There's the vault on the right where they put people that can't be buried yet because the ground's frozen. That used to be the caretaker's house, now a private residence. Catholic cemetery is on the left. This big house on the left used to be a veterinary clinic. In fact, you can see the white building was the addition. Now we jump to Rock Glen, just past the state DOT on the left, the fence, and then Cole Building Solutions. Crossing a little stream, there's a plant store to the right that's, of course, closed in the winter. She's only open when it's time to plant. Now here we're approaching Rock Glen Hill, crossing a creek, that is Owatka Creek, again, and going up the hill. That white line through the woods is the Rochester and Southern, built as the Rochester State Line Railroad, and then it was the Rochester and Pittsburgh, and then Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh, and then Baltimore, Ohio, and then now it's the Rochester and Southern. It's used 5 days a week to interchange with the Norfolk Southern and Silver Springs. We're at the top of the hill. The highway used to go straight along that, straight through there. Here we have turned off of 19, looking back at 19 onto 19A. Here you can see more fields. There's a state snowplow. Coming up on our left is some fields. Beyond those fields is a agricultural transload owned by Marquart's, which is served by the Norfolk Southern Railroad. Those fields are usually planted with corn. In fact, you can see the corn stalks sticking up through the snow, remnants of them. At this point, we're almost back to Silver Springs. You jump ahead a little bit to passing Fuller Road and Luzak's Tree Farm, which is just outside Silver Springs. We have Luzak's Pond, which has a dry hydrant, just to provide water to areas where there is no fire hydrants. Fire departments can hook up to that, and it provides a quicker way of getting water into tankers to deliver water to a fire scene away from the hydrant districts. Here is the railroad. This is the abandoned section that goes between Silver Lake Junction, which is off to the left, and Machias, New York, down in Cattaraugus County. This Village of Silver Springs sign, and we're coming into the trailer park, and at this point we bring the video to a close as we come into Village of Silver Springs, population of 800. So this is what real New York looks like. It's not a city. It's trees, rolling hills, and such. Stay tuned for more on The Real New York. Bye.